Alcaraz harshly criticized for not having achieved number one fairly according to some. The season ended with Alcaraz raising his arms to the roof of the ATP Arena, celebrating a resounding victory over Musetti and securing not only his place in the semifinals but also the throne of world tennis. It was a year of consistency, a long-distance race where every point mattered. Meanwhile, comparisons with Sinner became inevitable, both because of their rivalry and the symmetry of their results. In that context, a criticism emerged. Some sectors of the public pointed out that the 3-month sanction that Sinner had to serve, which kept him out of key tournaments, tipped the competitive balance. They argued that those missed tournaments represented opportunities to earn points and keep a wider margin ahead of Alcaraz. Although this opinion circulated strongly, it is just one interpretation of the schedule and the circumstances experienced by both players. What is certain is that, with or without the sanction, Alcaraz had an extraordinary year. He led the circuit in victories and titles, won decisive matches under pressure, and demonstrated a maturity that contrasts with his young age. For many analysts, any theory of advantage is overshadowed by his ability to maintain a high level for consecutive months. Throughout the season, every time Sinner struck hard, Alcaraz responded with equal intensity. Thus, more than an imbalanced rivalry, what unfolded was an exciting battle. Even in the final stretch, when Sinner could no longer mathematically snatch the number one spot, both kept pushing each other to new heights. That continuous feedback was one of the reasons why this year was seen as one of the most vibrant in modern tennis. Despite this, the discussion about the advantage did not disappear. Some fans insisted that the ranking might have shown a different ending if Sinner had played that series of tournaments he missed due to the sanction. For them, the points difference minus 11,650 for Alcaraz compared to Sinner's maximum possible 11,500, is an indicator that invites speculation. But figures, without context, do not always reflect the complexity of human performance or the effect of pressure on the circuit. Other experts, on the contrary, pointed out that a season is not defined by 3 isolated months. They highlighted that Sinner had later opportunities to close the gap and that, in several duels, Alcaraz maintained a superior level. Moreover, the fight for number one usually does not depend on a single stretch of the year but on the capacity to sustain competitive performance week after week, something Alcaraz mastered with authority. What this conversation did make clear is the strength of the debate among fans of both players. The rivalry has grown so much that any detail from an injury to a sanction becomes fuel for heated discussions. The sports narrative becomes more intense thanks to these voices, even though they often mix analysis with emotion. In any case, what is beyond dispute is that Alcaraz closed the year with impressive numbers, more victories than anyone, more titles than anyone, and the real possibility of becoming the youngest player to reach milestones not seen since Djokovic in 2009. His leadership is no accident but the direct consequence of consistency, discipline, and fierce ambition. Although part of the public wanted to attribute his rise to supposed advantages derived from Sinner's sanction, the facts show a different story, that of a player who competed with outstanding regularity and who defeated rivals in key moments. Controversies always accompany success, but they rarely manage to overshadow true merit. If this season made one thing clear, it is that the Alcaraz-Sinner rivalry will continue fueling emotions, discussions, and memorable matches. And if both keep pushing each other forward, the sport will always be the one to benefit. Alcaraz is the king of tennis. He ends the year as world number one. Alcaraz smiles, lifting his arms toward the roof of the ATP Arena as he looks toward his bench, where emotion overflows on their faces as well. He has just defeated Musetti, 6-4, 6-1, which translates into qualification for the semifinals as group leader and, most prestigiously, allows him to finish the year as world number one. There is nothing Sinner can do to prevent it. It is already too late. Not even by winning the tournament in Turin can he sit on the tennis throne. That is to say, the gap between them is closer to widening than narrowing. The ATP ranking will be updated after the first Grand Slam of the year on February 1st. It will be Sinner's first attempt to regain the throne, which for Alcaraz, if he were to lose it on that date, would mean a total of 56 weeks at the top of the ranking. He would be just 2 shy of Jim Courier, no less. Alcaraz also leads the ATP circuit in wins, 69, and titles, 8, this season and is trying to become the first man to win 9 titles in a season since Murray in 2016. He would also be the youngest to reach 70 wins in a season since Djokovic, who recorded 78 in 2009 at 22 years old. Carlos Alcaraz, a reward for consistency and effort. Reaching world number one in professional tennis is much more than a position in a ranking. It represents the result of years of sacrifice, dedication, and innate talent. For Carlos Alcaraz, the young Spanish prodigy, This achievement has not only secured him a place in sports history but also a substantial financial reward that reaffirms his status on the global circuit. The value of finishing the season as world number one. In tennis, the number one spot at the end of the year carries special weight. The top tournament organizers and the ATP reward this consistency with very significant financial incentives. This criterion seeks to recognize not just a single tournament or moment but regularity, competitive level, and excellence maintained throughout the entire calendar. How much money does Carlos Alcaraz earn for his privileged position? According to recent reports, the young player from Murcia will receive a prize of around $1 million just for finishing the season as leader of the ATP ranking. This sum adds to the substantial prize money he has already accumulated throughout the year thanks to his victories in important tournaments and strong performances in Grand Slams. Carlos Alcaraz's jokes with Jannik Sinner, I see him more than my mother. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have been the main protagonists of the 2025 season, having won the 4 Grand Slams and battled for the world number 1 ranking A position at stake at the ATP Finals, in which the Spaniard can secure until 2026 if he defeats Lorenzo Musetti. Carlos Alcaraz, it's been my best year without any doubt. In an interview with CNN, the player from El Palmar spoke in detail about his relationship and rivalry with the Italian, with whom he maintains a great rivalry and exemplary sportsmanship that have allowed them to be close off the court. I already said it in the summer, I see him more than my mother. I never get tired, Alcaraz said. I think the word rivalry stays in the professional part. Tennis-wise, we try to find each other's weak points on court, but then when we shake hands at the net and leave the court, we are totally different. Sometimes we forget about that rivalry and are simply people, the Spaniard added. The 6-time Grand Slam champion has already recorded 2 of the 3 wins he needs to finish the year as owner of the top spot in the ATP rankings, ATP Finals in Turin, where he is chasing his first title as maestro. I have to get good results here in Turin if I want to end as number 1. My goals remain the same, the 22-year-old said. The 2025 calendar has brought enormous triumphs for the player coached by Juan Carlos Ferrero, who reflected on how his season has been so far. It has been my best year without any doubt. In terms of level, consistency. I've seen a lot of growth in myself regarding understanding certain situations, realizing what I have to do and knowing what I need on the court, Alcaraz remarked. Carlos Alcaraz reveals the keys to his success. I am a very positive person. Carlos Alcaraz appears confident and calm ahead of the crucial match against Lorenzo Musetti at the ATP Finals, where the world number 1 is at stake. In an interview, the player from Murcia highlighted the importance of mental preparation and his family environment to handle pressure and aim to surpass the legends. At 22 years old, Alcaraz has learned to handle the pressure and expectations surrounding everything he does on and off the court. According to his own words, mental preparation and his family environment are fundamental pillars for maintaining calm in decisive moments. His approach is to give everything in each point and control what depends on him. Alcaraz's competitive mindset allows him to separate external pressure from his performance, a factor he has sharpened through experience and constant work with his team. Family and friends, the anchor of his balance. Despite his success and fame, Carlos maintains a strong bond with his family and friends. At his parents' home, he says, he is still the same as ever, with rules and routines that remind him of his roots. The peace this environment provides allows him to disconnect and recharge between tournaments, strengthening his emotional stability. Additionally, his relationship with his coach Juan Carlos Ferrero has evolved over the years. Both have learned to communicate better, balancing discipline with mutual understanding, which translates into more effective decisions on and off the court. Sporting aspirations, the table of the greats. Alcaraz acknowledged that his ambition remains intact, as surpassing legends like Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic is a goal that motivates him every day. With 6 Grand Slam titles to his name, the player from Murcia keeps his feet on the ground, aware that he still has a long way to go. Winning the Australian Open and adding more majors is part of his plan, but he also highlights the importance of enjoying and learning in each tournament. Competition with other young talents, such as Jannik Sinner, is seen by Alcaraz as a positive stimulus. The rivalry forces him to always give his maximum, strengthening the quality of his tennis and the demands of his team. Positive mindset, his secret off the court. Beyond the physical and technical aspects, Alcaraz emphasizes the importance of attitude. He believes that maintaining a positive outlook in the face of defeats or mistakes is key to progressing. His focus on learning from every situation and valuing the positive has allowed him to establish himself as one of the reference players in world tennis, ready to face whatever challenges await at the end of the season in Turin.